In the quietest hour of night, when the world holds its breath between today and tomorrow, there exists a space, a gentle threshold where wisdom meets rest, where ancient truths dissolve into dreams like sugar in warm tea. Tonight, we walk together, down a moonlit path where cherry blossoms drift on evening breezes, their petals catching starlight as they fall. Somewhere in the distance, monastery bells ring once, twice, then fade into the profound silence that cradles all sound. Before we begin this gentle journey into the heart of peace. If these calming wisdom stories bring comfort to your restless mind, feel free to subscribe, give this video a like, and gently share in the comments where in the world you're listening from tonight. Perhaps you're nestled in a cozy bedroom in London, or watching stars from a window in Tokyo, or feeling the desert winds of Arizona. Wherever you are welcome here, in this sacred space between waking and sleeping. Imagine now a single monk walking slowly through an ancient forest, his bare feet making no sound on the moss-covered path. The trees bend inward like old, friends sharing secrets, and the air itself seems to shimmer with incense that has traveled on the wind from some distant temple. This is where we find ourselves tonight, not in the rush of day, but in the eternal now of reflection and surrender. The Buddha once said that peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Tonight, we seek nothing at all. We simply let go. Let the world spin quietly beyond these words. Let your breath become the rhythm of ancient chants. Let your heartbeat sync with the drumming of Dharma that has echoed through centuries of seeking souls. What unfolds before us is not a teaching, but a gentle unraveling. Not a lesson, but a lullaby woven from the threads of compassion, mindfulness, and the deep, abiding rest that comes when we stop trying so hard to understand and simply be. In the tradition of Zen masters who spoke in riddles and koans, let us begin with a question that has no answer, yet contains all answers. What is the sound of peace before thought? Picture a pristine mountain lake at dawn, its surface so still it mirrors the sky perfectly. Not a ripple disturbs its face, not a breath of wind stirs the reeds along its shore. In that perfect stillness, before the first bird calls, before the sun catches the water and turns it to liquid gold, what sound does that silence make? The ancient masters understood something profound about questions that cannot be answered with the mind. They knew that some truths can only be felt, like the warmth of sunlight on your face after emerging from a cool cave, or the way your shoulders relax when you finally set down a burden you didn't realize you were carrying. Tonight, as your body settles deeper into rest, consider this gentle mystery. If we let go of everything we think we know, everything we think we need, everything we think we are, what remains? There once was a student who approached a great Zen master, desperate for enlightenment. Master, he pleaded, I have read every sutra, meditated for countless hours, followed every precept. Why haven't I found awakening? The master smiled and gestured to a nearby stream. Watch the water, he said softly. See how it doesn't try to be water. See how it doesn't struggle to flow. It simply is. The student watched for hours, and gradually his urgent seeking melted away like snow in spring sunshine. This is the first gentle truth we encounter on our midnight journey. The deepest peace comes not from adding more to ourselves, but from subtracting. Not from grasping, but from releasing. Not from becoming something new, but from remembering what we have always been beneath the layers of worry, beneath the accumulated dust of countless busy days. In the Buddhist teachings, there is a beautiful concept called beginner's mind, shoshin in Japanese. It is the mind that approaches each moment with fresh wonder, free from the weight of past experiences and future expectations. Tonight, as sleep begins to court your consciousness, what would it feel like to meet this very moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this gentle settling into darkness with beginner's mind? Imagine you are seeing stars for the first time. Imagine you are feeling the softness of your pillow, as if touch itself is a miracle you've never experienced. Imagine your breath is the first breath ever drawn by any living being, sacred and unrepeatable. The question that has no answer whispers through the darkness. What were you before you were born? What will you be after thought has dissolved into? Dream? In the space between these mysteries, a deeper knowing begins to stir, as gentle as morning mist rising from still water. Let the question remain unanswered. Let it settle into your bones like a blessing, like a reminder that the most profound truths cannot be grasped by the mind that seeks, but only received by the heart that rests in not knowing, in the fertile darkness where all wisdom is born. 2,500 years ago, under a Bodhi tree in what is now India, a young prince named Siddhartha discovered something that would echo through millennia of human seeking. But tonight, we don't need to understand the historical Buddha or memorize his teachings. Tonight, we need only to feel the gentle current of compassion that flows from that ancient awakening into this very moment, where you lie listening to these words. The Buddha spoke of the Four Noble Truths, but let us receive them not as doctrine, but as soft rain falling on the garden of the heart. The first truth acknowledges that life contains suffering dukkha in the ancient language. But this is not a pessimistic view. It is as gentle as a friend placing a hand on your shoulder and saying, "I know, I understand." You don't have to pretend that everything is easy. Think of how comforting it is to finally be seen in your struggles, to have someone acknowledge that, yes, sometimes life feels heavy. Sometimes the heart aches with inexplicable longing. Sometimes we feel lost in the maze of our own making. The Buddha's first truth is not judgment, but recognition, not condemnation, but compassion. The second truth whispers that this suffering arises from our constant grasping, our endless reaching for what we don't have, our desperate clinging to what we fear to lose. Picture a child at the beach, trying to hold water in cupped hands. The tighter the grip, the faster the water escapes. The more we chase happiness, the more elusive it becomes. But this too is spoken with infinite gentleness, like a grandparent watching a child learn to walk, knowing that falling is part of the process. The third truth offers the most beautiful promise. Suffering can end, not through achieving everything we want, but through a subtle shift in how we relate to wanting itself. It's like the moment when you've been searching everywhere for your glasses, getting more and more frustrated, only to discover they've been on your head all along. The peace you seek isn't somewhere else. It's in the letting go of the search. And the fourth truth, the Eightfold Path, is simply a gentle roadmap for this letting go. Right speech, right action, right livelihood, not as rigid rules, but as loving guidance for a heart that wants to cause less harm and create more peace. Like learning to walk softly through life, leaving footprints of kindness rather than tracks of urgency. In the Dhammapada, one of Buddhism's most beloved texts, we find these words: all conditioned things are impermanent. Strive diligently. But tonight, let us hear this differently. Let us hear, everything changes, beloved. Even your worries, even your pain, even your restless mind. Nothing lasts forever, so rest gently in this truth. Let it carry you like a leaf on a stream. There is a meditation practice called loving kindness metta in Pali. It begins with offering kindness to yourself, then gradually extending that. Warmth to loved ones, to neutral people, to difficult people, and finally, to all beings everywhere. But tonight, we need not follow any formal practice. We need only let kindness be the blanket that covers you as you drift toward sleep. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering. These ancient words have been whispered by countless practitioners through countless nights. They float now in the darkness around you, like fireflies of blessing. Each syllable a soft light in the gentle night of your becoming rest. The teachings tell us that enlightenment is our natural state, obscured only by the clouds of confusion and grasping. Tonight, you need not seek enlightenment. You need only rest in the knowing that beneath all the mental chatter, beneath all the day's accumulated tensions, your true nature remains pristine and peaceful, like the sky that exists beyond all weather. Let the ancient wisdom settle into your bones, not as knowledge to be remembered, but as a lullaby to be felt, as familiar as your own heartbeat, as gentle as your own breath moving in and out, carrying you deeper into the timeless peace that has always been your home. In a monastery nestled high in the mountains of Tibet, where the air is so thin that every breath feels like a blessing, there lived an old monk named Tenzin. His face was carved by decades of mountain wind and gentle smiles, his eyes holding the clarity of fresh snow and the warmth of butter tea shared on cold mornings. Tenzin had a peculiar habit that puzzled the younger monks. Every evening, just as the sun painted the peaks gold and crimson, he would walk to the monastery garden and sit beside a particular cherry tree, not meditating, not chanting, not reading sutras, simply ... sitting, sometimes for minutes, sometimes for hours, as still as the stone Buddha in the meditation hall. One autumn evening, a young monk named Pemba, restless with the urgency of spiritual seeking, approached the old master. "Venerable Tenzin," he whispered, not wanting to disturb, but unable to contain his curiosity. "What are you doing here each evening? What practice are you following? What wisdom are you seeking?" The old monk's eyes crinkled with gentle amusement, like candlelight dancing on water. He patted the ground beside him, inviting the young seeker to sit. "I am not seeking anything, dear Pemba," he said, his voice as soft as prayer flags fluttering in the evening breeze. "I am simply keeping company." "Keeping company?" Pemba's forehead wrinkled with confusion. "With whom? With the tree?" Tenzin nodded slowly, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. "With the tree, yes, with the evening, with this moment that will never come again, exactly as it is now. You see, young friend, for 40 years I have sat with this tree. I have watched it through every season, its spring blossoming, when the petals fell like snow, its summer fullness, when the leaves whispered secrets to the wind, its autumn surrender, when it released everything beautiful it had created, its winter rest when it stood naked and unashamed against the sky." The young monk listened, his breathing unconsciously slowing to match the rhythm of the old master's words. "And in all these years," Tenzin continued, "the tree has taught me something no sutra ever could. It has shown me how to be present without agenda, how to witness without judgment, how to love without attachment. The tree does not worry about tomorrow's weather. It does not grieve yesterday's fallen leaves. It simply ... is, and in its presence, I remember how to simply be." As if summoned by their conversation, a gentle wind stirred the remaining leaves above them. A few golden leaves spiraled down, landing softly on Tenzin's robes, on Pemba's shoulder, on the earth between them. The old monk smiled and gently brushed the leaves from his lap, not in rejection, but in tender acknowledgement. "You see," he whispered, "the tree teaches without teaching. It loves without grasping. It gives without counting. Every evening, I come here not to gain something, but to remember what I have always known, but sometimes forget in the busyness of seeking enlightenment." Pemba felt something shift in his chest, like a knot loosening, like a fist opening. "What does it teach you, master?" "That enlightened is not something we achieve," Tenzin said, his voice growing even softer, as if sharing the most precious secret. "It is something we remember, like coming home after a long journey and recognizing that what we were seeking was always here, waiting patiently for our return." They sat together in comfortable silence as the sky deepened from gold to purple to deep blue. The stars began to appear, first one, then another, then countless lights scattered across the infinite darkness. The tree stood quietly beside them, a silent teacher offering its wordless wisdom to anyone patient enough to listen. Every evening, Tenzin said finally, I thank the tree for its teaching. But tonight, I think the tree would want me to tell you something special, young Pemba. It would want you to know that you already are what you are seeking to become. The peace you long for is not hidden in some distant achievement. It is here, in this breath, in this moment, in the simple miracle of your own awareness attending to these words. As the two monks walked back to the monastery, under the star-filled sky, Pemba understood that he had received not a teaching, but a transmission. Not information, but transformation. The old master had shown him that wisdom is not acquired, but remembered, that enlightenment is not earned, but recognized, that peace is not found, but simply uncovered, like finding a jewel that was always in your pocket dot. And so the Sangha, the community of seekers, passes its deepest truths, not through complex philosophies, but through simple presence, through the patient modeling of what it means to be at home in the world, at peace with what is, grateful for the endless opportunities, to remember our true nature in the company of trees and stars and moments that will never come again exactly as they are now. Now, dear friend, as the night deepens around you and your body settles more completely into rest, we begin the gentlest of journeys, the path inward, where all seeking ends and all finding begins. This is not a journey that requires movement, but rather a settling, like sediment drifting to the bottom of a clear mountain lake, revealing the pristine clarity that was always there. Let your breath become your guide on this inner pilgrimage. Notice how each inhalation arrives without your effort, how each exhalation releases without your control. Your breath is like a wise teacher who never speaks, but demonstrates constantly the art of letting go and receiving, of trusting the intelligence that animates your very being. With each breath, feel yourself sinking deeper into the awareness that exists behind your thoughts, beneath your worries, beyond the endless commentary of the mind. This awareness is like the sky, vast, unchanging, capable of holding all weather without being disturbed by any of it. Your thoughts are like clouds, your emotions like passing storms, but you are the sky itself. In the Buddhist tradition, there is a beautiful practice called mindfulness of breathing and anapanasati. But tonight, we need not follow any formal technique. We need only rest in the natural rhythm that has sustained you since your first moment in this world and will carry you gently into whatever comes next. Imagine now that with each out-breath, you are releasing not just air, but everything that is not essential to this moment. Let go of tomorrow's concerns. They will wait for you. Let go of today's unfinished business. It too will be there when needed. Let go of the stories you tell yourself about who you should be, what you should accomplish, how you should feel. With each in-breath, welcome not just oxygen, but spaciousness. Breathe in the vastness of the night sky. Breathe in the peace of sleeping forests. Breathe in the gentle blessing of being exactly where you are, exactly as you are. In this unrepeatable moment, the Buddha taught that suffering comes from our identification with the ego, the small self that believes it is separate, that believes it must constantly defend and acquire and improve itself. But here, in the quiet sanctuary of inner exploration, we discover something wonderful. We are not the ego. We are the awareness in which the ego appears and disappears. Like a character in a dream, feel how your sense of being you begins to soften at the edges, not disappearing, but expanding. Like a drop of water, recognizing it was always part of the ocean. Like a wave, remembering it was always part of the sea. Your individual self remains, but it is held now in something larger, something infinitely spacious and kind. In this gentle dissolution of boundaries, you may begin to sense what the mystics of all traditions have whispered about through the ages. That separation is an illusion, that at the deepest level, there is only one consciousness appearing as many, only one love expressing itself through countless hearts, only one peace wearing a million different faces. But these are not concepts to understand with your mind. They are truths to be felt with your entire being, like warmth from a fire or coolness from shade. Let them wash over you without trying to grasp them. Let them permeate your awareness like fragrance from invisible flowers. As you journey deeper into the self, you may discover the most surprising thing of all. There is no final destination. The self is not a thing to be found, but a mystery to be lived. Not a problem to be solved, but a wonder to be celebrated. You are not seeking your true nature. You are your true nature, aware of itself in this moment, marveling at its own capacity. For consciousness, for love, for this inexplicable ability to know that it knows. Rest now in this knowing. Rest in the awareness that is reading these words, that is feeling the softness of your bed, that is experiencing the gentle tide of sleepiness beginning to wash over your consciousness. This awareness needs nothing, lacks nothing, is perfect, exactly as it is. You are not the body that grows tired. You are the awareness that notices tiredness. You are not the mind that thinks. You are the space in which thinking happens. You are not the emotions that come and go. You are the loving presence that holds them all with infinite tenderness. In this recognition, a profound relaxation becomes possible. The relaxation of the seeker, realizing there was never anything to seek. The relaxation of the wave, remembering it was always the ocean. The relaxation of coming home to yourself after a long journey of looking everywhere else. Sleep, when it comes, will simply be another face of this same awareness. Not an escape from consciousness, but a different expression of it, like music changing keys or light shifting colors. Rest in the confidence that what you truly are never sleeps, never wakes, never comes or goes, but simply is eternal and peaceful, the very ground of all experience. In the treasure house of Buddhist wisdom, there exist stories so simple they seem almost childlike, yet they carry secrets that can illuminate the deepest mysteries of existence. Tonight, like a gentle curator of ancient wonders, let me share with you some of these hidden gems teachings that sparkle with unexpected wisdom, cones that unlock doors you didn't know were closed. There is a famous story of two monks traveling together, walking along a muddy road after heavy rains. They came upon a beautiful young woman in an elegant kimono, standing helplessly at the edge of a large puddle, unable to cross without ruining her fine clothes. Without hesitation, the older monk lifted her up and carried her across, then set her down gently on the other side. The two monks continued walking in silence for several miles. Finally, the younger monk could contain himself no longer. "Brother," he said, his voice tight with disapproval, "how could you touch that woman? You know our vows forbid such contact." The older monk looked at him with gentle surprise. "I put her down hours ago," he said softly. "Why are you still carrying her?" This little story holds a universe of wisdom about the nature of mental suffering. How often do we carry burdens long after the moment that created them has passed? How often do we replay conversations, relive disappointments, rehearse worries about futures that may never arrive? The older monk teaches us that the present moment is always fresh, always offering us the opportunity to set down whatever we've been carrying. Here's another jewel from the tradition. A student once asked the great master Joshu, "Does a dog have Buddha nature?" Joshu replied simply, "Mu," which means no or nothing. This became one of Zen's most famous koans, puzzled over by students for centuries. But tonight, let's receive it not as a riddle to solve, but as a pointer to something beyond the thinking mind. What if the question itself is the trap? What if asking whether a dog has Buddha nature is like asking whether water is wet? The very asking reveals a separation that doesn't truly exist. The dog simply is. The Buddha nature simply is. In their natural state, there is no gap between them, no need for one to possess the other. And here's a particularly beautiful surprise from the teachings. The Buddha spoke often of the emptiness of all, phenomena sunyata in Sanskrit. This sounds like a philosophy of nihilism, a teaching that nothing matters. But emptiness in Buddhism is not nothingness. It's more like the emptiness of a cup that makes it useful, the emptiness of a room that makes it habitable. It's the spaciousness that allows everything to exist and move and change. Imagine your mind as a vast, clear sky. The thoughts, emotions, and sensations that arise in consciousness are like birds flying through that sky. A sky is not disturbed by the bird's passage. It doesn't become crowded when many birds fly through, doesn't become empty when no birds are present. The sky simply provides the space in which all movement becomes possible. This is the emptiness the Buddha spoke of, not the absence of everything, but the presence of pure potential, the fertile void from which all experience blossoms and into which it eventually returns. You are that sky-like awareness, and tonight, as sleep approaches, you can rest in the knowing that whatever dreams may come, whatever thoughts may arise, the sky of your true nature remains pristine, unlimited, perfectly at peace. There's another story that reveals the playful wisdom of awakened beings. A great Zen master was asked by a student, "What is the most important teaching of Buddhism?" The master pointed to a flower in the garden and smiled. "When you understand why I'm smiling," he said, "you will understand everything." The student studied for years, memorized sutras, practiced meditation intensively, but could never grasp why the master smiled at the flower. Decades later, now an old man himself, the former student was walking in his own garden when he saw a flower blooming by his path. Suddenly, he began to laugh, not because he had figured out an answer, but because he realized there was no answer to figure out. The flower was complete exactly as it was. The master's smile was complete exactly as it was. And he, in that moment of recognition, was complete exactly as he was. This is perhaps the most hidden truth of all, that awakening is not about becoming someone different or achieving something extraordinary. It's about recognizing the extraordinary nature of what is most ordinary, the miracle of awareness itself, the wonder of being conscious in this moment, the inexplicable gift of existence appearing to itself through your very being. As you settle deeper into rest tonight, carry with you this gentle secret. You are already whole, already perfect, already awake. Not because you've achieved anything, but because wholeness, perfection, and awakeness are your natural state, temporarily obscured perhaps by clouds of thinking and seeking, but never actually damaged or diminished. The hidden truth whispers through the darkness. There is nothing to fix, nothing to improve, nothing to become. There is only this eternal invitation to recognize what has always been true, to remember what you have never actually forgotten, to come home to the peace that is your birthright and your essence. As the night deepens around you like a soft cocoon of stars and silence, let us drift together into the most gentle exploration of suffering and peace, not as abstract concepts to be analyzed, but as intimate friends to be understood with the wisdom of the heart. The Buddha's first teaching, after his enlightenment, spoke of dukkha, often translated as suffering, but perhaps better understood as the unsatisfactoriness that seems woven into the fabric of ordinary experience. Like a pebble in a shoe that creates discomfort with each step, like a low-grade fever that colors everything with subtle unease. There is something in human existence that feels not quite right. But tonight, as sleepiness begins to blur the edges of thought, imagine dukkha not as something wrong with life, but as life's gentle teacher, pointing always towards something deeper. Think of how physical pain draws your attention to what needs healing, how emotional discomfort often signals that you're living out of alignment with your true nature. Picture a river flowing toward the sea. When the river meets rocks, it doesn't stop flowing, it finds a way around, over, or through. The turbulence where water meets obstacle might seem like suffering, but it's actually the river's way of discovering its own power, its own adaptability. Your suffering, too, might be the soul's way of finding its deeper currents, its natural flow toward peace. In the gentle philosophy of Buddhism, peace is not the opposite of suffering, but its completion. Like the moment when a discordant note resolves into harmony, or the way storm clouds part to reveal the sun that was always shining behind them. Peace doesn't eliminate life's challenges. It transforms your relationship to them. Imagine you're sitting by a campfire on a cool evening. The fire doesn't fight the darkness, it simply shines. It doesn't push away the cold, it offers warmth. In the same way, the peace that Buddhist wisdom points toward doesn't resist difficulty, but illuminates it with understanding, warms it with compassion. There's a beautiful teaching that suggests all suffering comes from one fundamental mistake: believing that you are separate from life, that you are somehow outside the flow of existence, struggling to get in or fighting to stay out. But what if you're not separate from the river? What if you are the river? What if you're not outside the dance of existence? What if you are the dance itself? In this gentle recognition, suffering begins to transform. Not disappearing life will still bring its challenges, but losing its sting of resistance. Like learning to swim with the current instead of against it. Like discovering that the waves you feared were part of the same ocean that holds and supports you. The deepest peace comes not from eliminating all problems, but from recognizing the consciousness that remains calm in the midst of any storm. Like the depths of the ocean that remain still even when the surface is churned by tempests. There is something in you that remains untouched by whatever difficulties may come and go. As you settle deeper into the approaching embrace of sleep, feel how this understanding can be lived rather than merely thought. Let your breath carry you into the direct experience of that still center, that place in you that has never been wounded, never been diminished, never been separated from the wholeness that is your deepest nature. Suffering, from this perspective, becomes a doorway rather than a wall, an invitation to go deeper rather than a reason to give up, a teacher pointing toward the unshakable peace that exists not despite your challenges, but through your willingness to meet them with an open heart. Tonight, as thoughts dissolve into dreams and dreams dissolve into the vast spaciousness of deep rest, carry with you this gentle knowing that peace is not something you must create or achieve or deserve, but something you are invited to remember, like a song you've always known, but sometimes forget the words to, like a home you never truly left but sometimes feel lost in finding. The suffering ends not when life becomes perfect, but when the heart becomes spacious enough to hold life exactly as it is, with all its imperfections, all its uncertainties, all its bittersweet beauty. And in that spaciousness, peace blooms, naturally, like flowers opening to sunlight, like your own consciousness opening to the infinite tenderness that is always available in this eternal now. In the gentle darkness that cradles you now, let us explore together one of Buddhism's most mysterious and liberating teachings, the art of letting go. Not as a forced action, like dropping a heavy stone, but as a natural unfolding, like the way a flower releases its petals when its time has come, like the way your hand naturally opens when you fall into deep sleep. Imagine you're holding a handful of sand on a windy beach. The tighter you squeeze your fist, the more quickly the sand slips through your fingers. But if you hold your hand gently open, palm up, some grains may blow away, while others rest peacefully in your care. This is the paradox of letting go. It's not about pushing away or giving up, but about relaxing the grip of desperate holding. The Buddha taught that our suffering comes from tanha, often translated as craving or attachment, but perhaps better understood as the desperate clutching of the heart. We grasp at pleasure, hoping to make it permanent. We push away pain, hoping to make it disappear forever. We cling to people, to possessions, to ideas about how life should unfold, as if our holding could stop the river of change from flowing. But tonight, as you rest in the gentle current of approaching sleep, consider a different possibility. What if letting go doesn't mean losing what you love, but learning to love in a way that allows everything to be exactly as it is? What if true freedom comes not from controlling life, but from dancing with its endless changes? There's a beautiful story of a master calligrapher who spent decades perfecting his art. His brush strokes were flawless, his characters perfectly formed, but something was missing. His work, though technically perfect, lacked soul. One day, a child wandered into his studio, and while the master wasn't looking, made a few playful marks on a fresh sheet of paper. When the master returned and saw the child's spontaneous, imperfect marks, he wept with joy. "This," he whispered, "is what I've been trying to learn for 30 years. How to let the brush move freely, how to let the art create itself through me." The master had been holding too tightly to his technique, his reputation, his idea of perfection. Only when he learned to let go did his true artistry emerge. In the same way, we often hold so tightly to our plans, our expectations, our ideas about who we should be, that we miss the spontaneous beauty that wants to emerge through the unguarded moments of life. Letting go, in the Buddhist sense, is not abandonment, but acceptance. Not carelessness, but care without attachment. It's like being a loving gardener who tends the soil, plants the seeds, provides water and sunlight, but doesn't try to force the flowers to bloom on schedule or insist that they be a different color than they naturally are. As your body settles deeper into rest, feel how this understanding can be embodied rather than merely contemplated. Notice how your muscles naturally release their tension when you stop trying to hold them rigid. Notice how your breath flows more easily when you stop controlling its rhythm. Your being already knows how to let go. It happens every time you fall asleep, every time you laugh so deeply that you forget yourself, every time you become absorbed in something beautiful. The deepest letting go is the release of the one who lets go. It's the recognition that there was never a separate self that needed to grasp or release anything. Like waves realizing they were always ocean, like dreams recognizing they were always the dreamer. The seeker dissolves into the sought, the holder merges with the held. But this is not a loss, it's the ultimate finding. Not disappearance, but expansion. Not emptiness, but fullness beyond measure. In letting go of the small self that struggles and strives, you discover the vast self that encompasses everything, needs nothing, and loves without condition. Tonight, as consciousness begins its gentle transformation into sleep, practice the most natural letting go of all. Release the day that has passed, its victories and failures, its joys and sorrows, its moments of clarity and confusion. Let them all dissolve into the great forgiveness of night. Release tomorrow's possibilities, its hopes and fears, its plans and uncertainties. Let them rest in the infinite potential that exists beyond time. And finally, most gently of all, release the one who is letting go. Rest in the awareness that needs no effort to maintain itself. It requires no vigilance to preserve its peace. That exists as naturally as space exists, as effortlessly as light illuminates whatever appears within it. This is the ultimate freedom that Buddhist wisdom points toward. Not the freedom to get what you want, but the freedom from wanting itself. Not the freedom to control your experience, but the freedom to be at peace with whatever experience unfolds. In this letting go, you discover that you are never truly holding on to anything anyway. You are always being held by something infinitely loving, infinitely spacious, infinitely here. In the monastery gardens of ancient Tibet, there grew a tree that the monks called the awakening tree. Not because it was where the Buddha found enlightenment. That honor belonged to the Bodhi tree far away, but because this particular tree seemed to embody the very essence of what awakening means. It stood in perfect stillness, yet swayed, gracefully with every breeze, rooted deeply yet reaching endlessly toward the sky, changing with every season yet never losing its essential nature. Tonight, as the gentle tide of sleep laps at the shores of your consciousness, let us explore together what it truly means to awaken, not as a distant goal to be achieved through years of practice, but as a recognition of what is already luminously present in this very moment of listening, breathing, being. The word Buddha simply means awakened one, not superhuman, not divine, but awake. Awake to what? To the truth that was always here, but somehow overlooked in the busyness of seeking something else, somewhere else. Like suddenly noticing that the glasses you've been frantically searching for have been on your head all along. Awakening is less about gaining something new and more about removing the obstacles to seeing what was never actually hidden. Imagine consciousness as a clear mountain lake. Throughout the day, winds stir its surface, creating waves and reflections that seem to fragment the sky into countless dancing pieces. But when evening comes and the winds die down, the surface becomes still, and suddenly the moon appears perfectly reflected, not as pieces or fragments, but as one complete, luminous presence. The awakened heart is like that still lake, not because it never experiences the winds of emotion or the waves of thought, but because it recognizes itself as the unchanging awareness in which all experiences arise and pass away. Joy comes and goes, sorrow comes and goes, but the heart that witnesses both remains constant, spacious, unperturbed. There's a beautiful teaching that says awakening happens in an instant, but it may take lifetimes to be willing to have that instant. This isn't because awakening is difficult or rare, but because the mind that seeks awakening is the very thing that obscures it. It's like trying to catch your own shadow. The chaser and the chased are not two separate things. But here's the gentle secret that the tradition whispers to those ready to hear it. You are already awake. Right now, as these words appear in your awareness, something in you knows that it knows them. Something in you is aware of being aware. This knowing awareness, this conscious presence that is reading these very words, this is not a function of your brain or a product of your thinking. This is the Buddha nature that has never been asleep. The awakened heart doesn't think differently. It realizes that it is not the thinker. It doesn't feel differently. It recognizes that it is the open space in which all feelings are lovingly held. It doesn't experience differently. It understands that it is the very capacity for experience itself, unlimited by any particular experience. In this recognition, compassion naturally flows, not as an emotion to be cultivated, but as the spontaneous response of a heart that sees no real separation between itself and all that appears. When you truly realize that the consciousness looking out through your eyes is the same consciousness looking out through every pair of eyes, how could kindness be anything but natural? As sleep begins to call you into its embrace, notice that even now, awareness is transforming, but never actually going anywhere. The awakened heart that you are doesn't sleep, it simply experiences a different modulation of consciousness, like music changing from major to minor key while remaining fundamentally music. Dreams, when they come, will appear in the same awareness that is receiving these words now. Deep, dreamless sleep will be known by the same knowing presence that is aware of your breathing, your heartbeat, the gentle settling of your body into rest. You are not someone who has consciousness, you are consciousness itself, temporarily and playfully appearing as someone. This is the ultimate awakening, not a dramatic transformation, but a gentle recognition. Not becoming something extraordinary, but seeing the extraordinary nature of what you've always been. Like the sun finally seeing itself in a clear pool after a lifetime of lighting the world without self-recognition. In the heart of a vast forest, where ancient trees reach toward stars and their roots drink from underground springs older than human memory, there exists a silence so profound that it seems to have weight, substance, presence. Not the mere absence of sound, but a positive fullness. The way of clear glass contains not emptiness, but transparency itself. The way space contains not nothing, but the infinite possibility for everything not. This is the stillness that Buddhist wisdom points toward as the deepest truth of existence. Not the stillness of a frozen pond, but the dynamic stillness of the axis around which all movement revolves. Like the eye of a hurricane, perfectly calm while storms swirl at unimaginable speeds around it. Like the center of a spinning wheel, motionless while enabling all motion. Tonight, as your body naturally discovers its own deepest rest, feel how this teaching is not merely philosophical, but intimately present in your immediate experience. Notice the stillness that exists between your thoughts, not a blank void, but a pregnant pause full of potential. Notice the stillness that remains constant while your breath moves in and out, while your heart beats its steady rhythm, while consciousness flows through its endless variations. The Buddha's enlightenment is often described as the moment when his mind became perfectly still, like a clear lake reflecting the moon without a single ripple to distort its perfect image. But this stillness was not the absence of life. It was life revealing its deepest nature. In that profound quiet, he saw through the illusion of separation, the mirage of the seeking self, the dream of time that makes us believe peace is somewhere else in some other moment. There's a teaching story of a student who asked his master, "What is the most important thing in all of Buddhism?" The master pointed to a stone Buddha statue sitting silently in the garden. "That Buddha has been sitting there for 300 years, the master said. "In all that time, has it ever been disturbed by rain? Has it ever been upset by wind? Has it ever complained about the cold or rejoiced about warmth?" The student shook his head. "Then that stone Buddha has mastered what you are still learning." The master smiled gently. The statue teaches us that true stillness is not reactive. It doesn't resist what comes or chase what goes. It doesn't prefer comfort over discomfort, praise over blame, gain over loss. It simply is, with the unshakable presence that comes from being so completely at home with itself that external circumstances cannot disturb its fundamental peace. But you might wonder, if stillness is so important, why does life seem full of movement, change, activity? Here lies one of Buddhism's most beautiful paradoxes. The deepest stillness doesn't oppose movement, but enables it. Like the canvas that allows the painting to exist, like the silence that makes music possible, like the space that permits all objects to appear as you settle deeper into the approaching embrace of sleep. Begin to sense this stillness not as something you must create or achieve, but as the very foundation of your being. It's what allows thoughts to arise and pass away. It's what permits emotions to flow through you without defining you. It's what makes it possible for your body to change and age, while something in you remains timelessly young. In the Zen tradition, there's a famous koan. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Most people try to solve this riddle with their thinking mind, but the answer is not intellectual. The sound of one hand clapping is the sound of stillness itself, not silence, but the pregnant quiet from which all sounds emerge and into which they return. This stillness is not empty. It's full of infinite potential. Like the moment before a symphony begins, when the conductor raises his baton and the entire orchestra is poised in perfect readiness, stillness contains everything that could possibly unfold. Your own consciousness, in its deepest nature, is like that moment of perfect readiness, eternally pregnant with all possibilities. Here's the profound secret that the mystics have always known. You don't have to become still. You are stillness itself, temporarily fascinated by its own capacity to appear as movement, like an actor so absorbed in playing a role that they momentarily forget they are not the character. Tonight, as the boundaries between waking and sleeping begin to soften, rest in the recognition that the stillness you seek is the stillness you are. The peace you long for is the peace that is longing. The awareness that notices everything, including these very words, is itself the unmoving center around which all experience revolves. In this deepest stillness, time reveals itself as a gentle illusion. Past and future are just thoughts arising. In the eternal now, the problems that seemed so urgent during the day are revealed as temporary weather patterns in the vast sky of consciousness. The seeking that drove you through countless activities and achievements is recognized as the movement of stillness rediscovering itself. This is why stillness is called the deepest truth, not because it's more real than movement, but because it's the reality that makes all movement possible, meaningful, sacred. Like the unmarked paper that allows the poem to be written, like the uncarved block that contains all possible sculptures. Your essential stillness is the creative emptiness from which all of life's richness flows. In the gentle hours when night reaches its deepest point, when even the most restless minds begin to quiet and the world settles into its most profound rest, there exists a teaching that can only be whispered through metaphors of rivers, stars, and moonlight. Tonight, as you float between waking and sleeping, let these images carry you deeper into the wordless wisdom that Buddhism offers to the weary heart. Imagine yourself beside a great river at midnight. The water flows steadily toward some distant sea, carrying fallen leaves, reflecting occasional stars, making the softest sound as it encounters rocks and bends around islands. You could watch this river forever and never see the same moment. Twice each ripple is unique, each reflection unrepeatable, each sound slightly different from the last. This river is like the stream of consciousness that flows through your awareness. Every moment, thoughts arise like bubbles on the surface, emotions flow like currents beneath, sensations drift by like floating debris. From the Buddhist perspective, suffering comes when we try to step into this river and stop it, or when we identify ourselves as one particular wave rather than recognizing ourselves as the riverbank that holds all flowing. But tonight, you need not manage the river. You need only rest on its banks and let it carry away whatever is ready to be released. The worry from last Tuesday, let it float downstream like a fallen leaf. The embarrassment from childhood, which dissolve like salt in water. The anxiety about next month, see it drift away like foam on the current. Now lift your eyes from the river to the sky above, where countless stars pierce the darkness like tiny holes in a vast black cloth, allowing the infinite light beyond to shine through. In Buddhist cosmology, these stars represent the countless sentient beings throughout all realms of existence, each one a point of consciousness, each one capable of awakening, each one already perfect in its essential nature. The ancient teachings speak of countless Buddha fields stretching across infinite space, each one a realm where awakened consciousness expresses itself in perfect wisdom and compassion. But you need not journey to distant galaxies to touch this reality. Each star you see is a reminder that the light of awareness that shines through your own consciousness is the same light that illuminates all existence. As you gaze upward in your imagination, notice how the stars don't compete with each other for brightness. Each shines with its own perfect radiance, contributing to the overall luminosity of the night sky. The brightest star doesn't diminish the smallest, and the smallest doesn't envy the brightest. This is how awakened beings relate to each other and to all of life, with spontaneous appreciation for the unique way consciousness expresses itself through every form. And then, as if summoned by your contemplation, the moon appears from behind, a drifting cloud. In Buddhism, the moon is perhaps the most beloved metaphor for enlightened consciousness. Like the moon, awakened awareness doesn't generate its own light, but perfectly reflects the luminosity that is always present. Like the moon, it goes through phases, sometimes appearing full and bright, sometimes hidden, sometimes just a silver crescent, but its essential nature never changes. The moon's reflection appears perfectly in still water, fragmented and choppy. Water, and disappears entirely in muddy water. But the moon itself remains unchanged by these conditions. Your Buddha nature is like that moon, sometimes clearly reflected in the still waters of meditation, sometimes fragmented by the choppy waters of daily life, sometimes obscured by the muddy waters of confusion. But like the moon, you're essential. Nature is never actually affected by these temporary conditions. As you rest now in this river valley under the starlit sky, with moonlight painting everything silver, feel how this entire scene exists within your own awareness. The river is consciousness itself, flowing eternally. The stars are the countless points of recognition that illuminate the vast space of being. The moon is the reflected light of your own deepest nature, serene and unchanging. In the heart of a vast forest, where ancient trees reach toward stars and their roots drink from underground springs older than human memory, there exists a silence so profound that it seems to have weight, substance, presence. Not the mere absence of sound, but a positive fullness. The way a clear glass contains not emptiness, but transparency itself. The way space contains not nothing, but the infinite possibility for everything not. This is the stillness that Buddhist wisdom points toward as the deepest truth of existence. Not the stillness of a frozen pond, but the dynamic stillness of the axis around which all movement revolves. Like the eye of a hurricane, perfectly calm while storms swirl at unimaginable speeds around it. Like the center of a spinning wheel, motionless while enabling all motion. Tonight, as your body naturally discovers its own deepest rest, feel how this teaching is not merely philosophical, but intimately present in your immediate experience. Notice the stillness that exists between your thoughts, not a blank void, but a pregnant pause full of potential. Notice the stillness that remains constant while your breath moves in and out, while your heart beats its steady rhythm, while consciousness flows through its endless variations. The Buddha's enlightenment is often described as the moment when his mind became perfectly still, like a clear lake reflecting the moon without a single ripple to distort its perfect image. But this stillness was not the absence of life. It was life revealing its deepest nature. In that profound quiet, he saw through the illusion of separation, the mirage of the seeking self, the dream of time that makes us believe peace is somewhere else in some other moment. There's a teaching story of a student who asked his master, "What is the most important thing in all of Buddhism?" The master pointed to a stone Buddha statue sitting silently in the garden. "That Buddha has been sitting there for 300 years, the master said. "In all that time, has it ever been disturbed by rain? Has it ever been upset by wind? Has it ever complained about the cold or rejoiced about warmth?" The student shook his head. "Then that stone Buddha has mastered what you are still learning." The master smiled gently. The statue teaches us that true stillness is not reactive. It doesn't resist what comes or chase what goes. It doesn't prefer comfort over discomfort, praise over blame, gain over loss. It simply is, with the unshakable presence that comes from being so completely at home with itself that external circumstances cannot disturb its fundamental peace. But you might wonder, if stillness is so important, why does life seem full of movement, change, activity? Here lies one of Buddhism's most beautiful paradoxes. The deepest stillness doesn't oppose movement, but enables it. Like the canvas that allows the painting to exist, like the silence that makes music possible, like the space that permits all objects to appear. As you settle deeper into the approaching embrace of sleep, begin to sense this stillness not as something you must create or achieve, but as the very foundation of your being. It's what allows thoughts to arise and pass away. It's what permits emotions to flow through you without defining you. It's what makes it possible for your body to change and age, while something in you remains timelessly young. In the Zen tradition, there's a famous koan. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Most people try to solve this riddle with their thinking mind, but the answer is not intellectual. The sound of one hand clapping is the sound of stillness itself, not silence, but the pregnant quiet from which all sounds emerge and into which they return. This stillness is not empty. It's full of infinite potential. Like the moment before, a symphony begins when the conductor raises his baton and the entire orchestra is poised in perfect readiness. Stillness contains everything that could possibly unfold. Your own consciousness, in its deepest nature, is like that moment of perfect readiness, eternally pregnant with all possibilities. Here's the profound secret that the mystics have always known. You don't have to become still. You are stillness itself, temporarily fascinated by its own capacity to appear as movement, like an actor so absorbed in playing a role that they momentarily forget they are not the character. Tonight, as the boundaries between waking and sleeping begin to soften, rest in the recognition that the stillness you seek is the stillness you are. The peace you long for is the peace that is longing. The awareness that notices everything, including these very words, is itself the unmoving center around which all experience revolves. In this deepest stillness, time reveals itself as a gentle illusion. Past and future are just thoughts arising. In the eternal now, the problems that seemed so urgent during the day are revealed as temporary weather patterns in the vast sky of consciousness. The seeking that drove you through countless activities and achievements is recognized as the movement of stillness rediscovering itself. This is why stillness is called the deepest truth, not because it's more real than movement, but because it's the reality that makes all movement possible, meaningful, sacred. Like the unmarked paper that allows the poem to be written, like the uncarved block that contains all possible sculptures. Your essential stillness is the creative emptiness from which all of life's richness flows. In the gentle hours when night reaches its deepest point, when even the most restless minds begin to quiet and the world settles into its most profound rest, there exists a teaching that can only be whispered through metaphors of rivers, stars, and moonlight. Tonight, as you float between waking and sleeping, let these images carry you deeper into the wordless wisdom that Buddhism offers to the weary heart. Imagine yourself beside a great river at midnight. The water flows steadily toward some distant sea, carrying fallen leaves, reflecting occasional stars, making the softest sound as it encounters rocks and bends around islands. You could watch this river forever and never see the same moment. Twice each ripple is unique, each reflection unrepeatable, each sound slightly different from the last. This river is like the stream of consciousness that flows through your awareness. Every moment, thoughts arise like bubbles on the surface, emotions flow like currents beneath, sensations drift by like floating debris. From the Buddhist perspective, suffering comes when we try to step into this river and stop it, or when we identify ourselves as one particular wave rather than recognizing ourselves as the riverbank that holds all flowing. But tonight, you need not manage the river. You need only rest on its banks and let it carry away whatever is ready to be released. The worry from last Tuesday, let it float downstream like a fallen leaf. The embarrassment from childhood, which dissolve like salt in water. The anxiety about next month, see it drift away like foam on the current. Now lift your eyes from the river to the sky above, where countless stars pierce the darkness like tiny holes in a vast black cloth, allowing the infinite light beyond to shine through. In Buddhist cosmology, these stars represent the countless sentient beings throughout all realms of existence, each one a point of consciousness, each one capable of awakening, each one already perfect in its essential nature. The ancient teachings speak of countless Buddha fields stretching across infinite space, each one a realm where awakened consciousness expresses itself in perfect wisdom and compassion. But you need not journey to distant galaxies to touch this reality. Each star you see is a reminder that the light of awareness that shines through your own consciousness is the same light that illuminates all existence. As you gaze upward in your imagination, Notice how the stars don't compete with each other for brightness. Each shines with its own perfect radiance, contributing to the overall luminosity of the night sky. The brightest star doesn't diminish the smallest, and the smallest doesn't envy the brightest. This is how awakened beings relate to each other and to all of life, with spontaneous appreciation for the unique way consciousness expresses itself through every form. And then, as if summoned by your contemplation, the moon appears from behind, a drifting cloud. In Buddhism, the moon is perhaps the most beloved metaphor for enlightened consciousness. Like the moon, awakened awareness doesn't generate its own light, but perfectly reflects the luminosity that is always present. Like the moon, it goes through phases, sometimes appearing full and bright, sometimes hidden, sometimes just a silver crescent, but its essential nature never changes. The moon's reflection appears perfectly in still water, fragmented in choppy water, and disappears entirely in muddy water. But the moon itself remains unchanged by these conditions. Your Buddha nature is like that moon, sometimes clearly reflected in the still waters of meditation, sometimes fragmented by the choppy waters of daily life, sometimes obscured by the muddy waters of confusion. But like the moon, you're essential. Nature is never actually affected by these temporary conditions. As you rest now in this river valley under the starlit sky, with moonlight painting everything silver, feel how this entire scene exists within your own awareness. The river is consciousness itself, flowing eternally. The stars are the countless points of recognition that illuminate the vast space of being. The moon is the reflected light of your own deepest nature, serene and unchanging. And you are not separate from any of this. You are the awareness in which rivers flow, in which stars shine, in which moonlight reveals the hidden beauty of night-darkened landscapes. You are the sky that holds it all, the space that allows it all, the consciousness that knows it all. Let the gentle sound of flowing water become the rhythm of your breathing. Let the distant starlight become the soft glow of awareness itself. Let the moonlight become the tender illumination that reveals how everything, including this moment of approaching sleep, is already sacred, already perfect, already home. In this recognition, surrender becomes as natural as water flowing downhill, as effortless as light illuminating whatever it touches. The seeking ends not because you've found what you were looking for, but because you've realized you were never actually lost. The river was always flowing toward the sea. The stars were always shining their ancient light. The moon was always reflecting its borrowed radiance. And you were always the awareness in which this entire cosmic dance unfolds as the night reaches its deepest point, when even the crickets have quieted their songs and the world settles into its most profound stillness. There comes a moment that Buddhist masters have always recognized as sacred, the moment when seeking naturally transforms into being, when the restless mind finally accepts the invitation that has always been present, the invitation to simply rest. This rest is not mere physical relaxation, though your body naturally participates in it. It's not just mental quietude, though your thoughts begin to settle like sediment in still water. This is the rest of the soul finally coming home to itself. Like a tired traveler who has wandered far and wide only to discover that what they sought was always waiting patiently at their own doorstep. In the Buddhist understanding, there are three kinds of rest that the human being longs for. The rest of the body that has carried you faithfully through another day. The rest of the mind that has processed countless thoughts and impressions since dawn. And the deepest rest of all, the rest of the seeker who finally stops seeking and discovers what was never hidden. Feel now how your body has earned its rest. Every muscle that has held tension, every nerve that has carried messages, every cell that has participated in the miracle of your existence through this day, all of it ready now to release into the healing embrace of sleep. This is not collapse, but conscious letting go, not exhaustion, but completion. Your mind, too, is ready for its rest. All the planning and remembering, analyzing and imagining, the endless commentary that has accompanied every experience today, like a radio that has been playing all day. It's ready now to fade into the background, to find its natural silence, to return to the peaceful emptiness from which all thoughts arise. But the deepest rest is the rest of identification itself. Throughout the day, you have been someone, a professional, a parent, a friend, a seeker, a dreamer. You have worn these roles like clothing, and they have served their purpose. But now, in the approaching darkness, there's an invitation to rest even from being someone, to sink into the nameless awareness that exists before all identity, beneath all stories, beyond all definitions. This is what the great meditation masters meant when they spoke of just sitting or choiceless awareness. Not a practice to perform, but a recognition to rest in, the recognition that you are the very consciousness in which all experience unfolds, the space in which all seeking and finding occurs, the love that embraces all conditions without preference. Imagine yourself as a drop of water that has been traveling through countless forms: cloud, rain, river, ocean, each form, believing itself to be separate and distinct. And now, finally, the drop remembers its true nature as water itself, realizes it was never actually separate from the ocean, discovers it was always home in the vast wetness that is its essence. This is the invitation that whispers through the darkness tonight, to rest in your oceanic nature, to stop pretending to be just a drop, to remember the vastness that has always been your true identity, not as a grand realization that changes everything, but as a gentle recognition that changes nothing except your relationship to what is. As you accept this invitation, notice how effortless it is. No techniques to master, no states to achieve, no experiences to accumulate. Just the simple willingness to stop the subtle effort of maintaining a separate self, to let the boundaries soften, to allow consciousness to recognize itself as the space in which all experiences are lovingly held. This rest is always available, not just at bedtime, but in any moment when you remember to stop pushing against life and start resting as life itself. In the middle of a busy day, you can find this rest. In the midst of difficulty, you can rest. In the awareness that remains undisturbed by any content. In moments of joy, you can rest in the love that celebrates without attachment. Tonight, though, the invitation is particularly sweet because it aligns with the body's natural rhythm of release, the mind's natural settling, the consciousness's natural return to its source. Like a river finally reaching the ocean, like a bird finding its nest after a long day of flight, like coming home after a journey you didn't know you were taking. Rest now in this invitation. Rest in the knowing that you need not go anywhere or become anything other than what you already are. Rest in the vast compassion that holds all beings without exception. Rest in the infinite patience that waits for every seeker to discover they were never lost. Rest in the timeless peace that is your birthright, your essence, your most intimate truth. The invitation has always been here. The door has always been open. The welcome has always been unconditional. And you, dear friend, weary traveler, beloved child of consciousness, you are always free to accept it, to walk through, to come home to the rest that surpasses all understanding. And so we come to the gentle close of our journey together, through the night-dark waters of ancient wisdom and modern rest. Like pilgrims who have walked together down a moonlit path, we have shared the kind of intimate silence that only deepens. In the company of kindred spirits seeking the same timeless peace. We began tonight with a simple question: what is the sound of peace before thought? And perhaps now, as your consciousness prepares for its nightly transformation, you can feel rather than answer that question. A sound is the silence between these words. The sound is your breath moving like prayer through the stillness. The sound is the infinite tenderness with which awareness holds all experience, including this moment of approaching sleep. Together, we have walked through ancient gardens where Zen masters taught without words, sat beside rivers that carry away everything temporary and leave only what is eternal. We have gazed at stars that remind us of our cosmic nature, rested in moonlight that reflects the luminosity of our deepest being. We have learned from old monks and their cherry trees, discovered the hidden truths tucked away in simple koans, and found that the greatest teachings are often the gentlest whispers. Most importantly, we have remembered together what the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree 25 centuries ago, that what we seek is what we are, that where we want to go is where we've always been, that the peace we long for is the peace that is longing, not as philosophy to think about, but as lived reality to rest in dot as you sink deeper now into the embrace of sleep. Carry with you not information, but transformation. Carry the felt sense of being held by something infinitely larger than your daily concerns, infinitely more patient than your restless seeking, infinitely more loving than your harshest self-judgments. Remember that every night offers this same invitation to return home to yourself, to rediscover the spacious awareness that you are, to rest in the Buddha nature that needs no improvement, no achievement, no validation from the world. Sleep itself becomes a teacher, showing you how consciousness can transform without going anywhere, how peace can deepen without effort, how love can embrace everything without attachment. Thank you, dear friend, for sharing this quiet path with me tonight. Thank you for bringing your seeking heart to this ancient wisdom, for allowing these words to find rest in your awareness, for trusting the darkness enough to let it teach you about the light that you are. Wherever you rest your head tonight, whether in a busy city or a quiet countryside, whether in a familiar bed or a temporary resting place, may you feel the infinite blessing that surrounds all sincere seekers. May you know that countless beings throughout history have walked this same path toward inner peace, and countless beings yet to come will follow these same footsteps toward the same timeless recognition. May the Dharma light your dreams with visions of compassion and wisdom. May your sleep be deep and restorative, free from the anxieties that trouble the day. May you wake refreshed in the knowing that you are held, always, by the same infinite love that moves the stars and stirs the heart toward awakening. And may you carry into tomorrow the gentle secret we have shared tonight, that you are already the peace you seek, already the wholeness you long for, already the love you hope to find. Not because you have achieved anything, but because this is your nature, your birthright, your eternal truth.